In between beers this Sunday watching NFL games, I was kind of dissecting what the hell I witnessed. And there were two things that just stood out to me. So you have to be the deciding factor. Which of these is just crazier than the other? The fact that Kyler Murray threw the ball 43 times for only 173 yards, or Bruce Arians saying he purposely took a delay of game call so that his field goal would be longer because he thought his kicker would be better from a greater distance.
Wow, that's really football guy talk. I'm going to go ahead and say Bruce Arians is a little bit crazier because I expected Kyler Murray to be fucking trash with that offense.
I can get behind that. I think Bruce Arians might have had one of those beers with me because that's just crazy. With that, let's get loaded because this is the Loaded Box Podcast.
We never finish first because we finish last.
Oh, welcome back. It's week 4 in the NFL. We're back with our Fantasy Football Weekly Preview. I am Ben. That is DJ. We've seen some crazy shit, man. Kyler Murray, 43 attempts. That's 4 yards per attempt. I have a feeling you and I could go out there for like 2 or 3 beers, calm those nerves, and at least throw the ball 6 yards down the field. What is this?
I mean, we're probably about the same height, so I'm pretty sure I can do it. Give me a couple of months to work out, throw me on the Cardinals. I throw 43 times, I'll get that many yards.
Oh, I love it. DJ, you say that you're in a brain-thinking mood, and I hope you are, because I am bringing something back in this podcast that we did every once in a while last year. Do you remember when we would do our daily fantasy sports preview podcast, I would play the wide receiver version of Who Am I, where I would give you like 3 clues and you had to guess which player I was talking about?
And I said, Petey Pop, motherfucker.
Exactly. I did that for every single position. So listeners, you can play along at home. The clues go from a little bit trickier and then they gradually get easier to hopefully lead you to victory. But they're guys that I have put in a DFS roster this week that works. The price works. It's guys that I'm really liking the matchups. And then DJ, I'm assuming that you went with your bargain plays this week again?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Got some good ones this week. After a little bit of a down week last week, didn't make money in the $3 million. I did beat my one-on-one guy, but I'm ready to bring it back. I feel good about this week.
Honestly, man, when you go bargain shopping like that, sometimes you're going to get a dud. I mean, you kind of get what you pay for sometimes, and you ran into that buzzsaw this week.
Yeah, homie, use a window shopper.
I tell you what, lead it off, get back on track. Who is your bargain quarterback for week 4?
I actually took this guy last week, and I'm going to jump right on that horse, right on that train, right on that lion, let's say, right back on that lion.
Oh.
I'm going to get Matthew Stafford again, $6,900, going up against the Chiefs. Got to wrap him up again. Didn't have a great week last week, had a decent week the week before, and then against the Cardinals, of course, everybody and their mom has a monster week.
Right.
He hasn't been amazing, but you can't really establish the run once you play Kansas City because they're going to score.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes is going to score. You know, he's going to throw 15 touchdowns a game. So the Lions are going to have to come out. They're going to try to run right away. I know they are. But then Patrick Mahomes is going to get the ball back, and then they're going to throw it. They're going to score, and then Lions are going to be like, oh, shit, we can't keep up if we're just running the ball, so now we have to throw it too. He's got the guys. He can spin it a little bit. He'll be throwing that ball downfield. I think they need Theo Riddick back right now.
I am actually shocked when I look at their box scores and when I watch parts of their games that they don't try to throw the ball to carry on more than they do. And I know both of us were high on Stafford and Kenny Golladay last week in their game against the Eagles. And if you would have just looked at the score of that game, you'd have been like, yep, Stafford got it done, Golladay got it done. That really wasn't the case at all in that game. But I like that, exactly what you said. We say it every single week. If you go against the Chiefs, you can have the best defense in the league. They've proven it. They've gone against the Jaguars. They've gone against the Ravens. They put up points. It doesn't matter. And in this game, you're going to have to be chasing points. He's going to be slinging it all over the field. I have his stats up right now. In games this year, he's thrown the ball 45 times, 30 times, and 32. That's telling me right there, he's throwing the ball at least 35 to 40 times in this game. I like to play.
Yeah, and the Ravens tried to run it as well, and it just didn't work because they just got – I mean, they scored, but
Right.
It wasn't fast enough, quick enough.
Oh, exactly.
And it's awesome for me because I'm nailing my Mark Ingram prediction, and Mikey, the old trash play that we had is way off on it, and I feel Gus Edwards is not getting any carries. Whoever else is in that backfield are not getting carries. It's the Mark Ingram show. I love it. I nailed it. I'm going to eat that shit up all season because he's going to keep scoring. It's money. It's money, baby.
I'm so glad that I was high on Ingram with you. That was one of the ones that we were just on this year, and it's been carrying some of my running back squads on fantasy teams. So, yes, hats off to Mark Ingram. Thanks for keeping me relevant in fantasy football.
Yeah, buddy.
So, DJ, yeah, I like your Matt Stafford play. My quarterback that I'm going to give you the clues on, once again, you can feel free to guess after each clue if you'd like. It's going to be, what's that?
We're going quarterback?
Quarterback, exactly. I'm actually going to do my stack. I usually do a bargain stack of the week or just a stack of the week. My stack is actually, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to start off with the clues. Are you ready?
Got it.
All right, great. Clue number 1. I am an older quarterback, and my team is just 1-2 after a lot of playoff/Super Bowl hype this offseason. I'm going to go on to clue number 2.
God.
That's a very vague clue. Like I said, they'll get a little easier. Clue.
I think I know.
Oh, you want to take a guess?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Philip Rivers.
You ding ding ding. I need the ding button. I forgot the ding button. Let me tell you the other 2 clues, and then I'll get into why I like him this week. Clue number 2 was my next opponent has allowed over 40 points per game and a league high 10 touchdown passes. And clue number 3 was there's no way I don't have the safest floor of any quarterback this week, as my opponent is literally trying to lose games. I mean, that was the dead giveaway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but honestly, are you going to find a safer? That's what I'm going with this one. I like him as a play, like with a very high potential, like ceiling here. And literally, like I said, he has to have the safest floor of any quarterback play. If you can play any quarterback against the Dolphins this year, you're already one step ahead of the game. And the fact that he's not even like one of the most expensive quarterbacks, you're getting the guy against the quarterback who is the 7th most expensive guy. Even though his price isn't like super bargain on FanDuel, he's $7,800. In my opinion, if you're going against the Dolphins and you have a Hall of Fame quarterback at $7,800, you can't go wrong. I like your Stafford play, but every single lineup I have is Philip Rivers led.
I told you my mind's on fleek tonight, boy.
is that your
2 words that I would have got it.
All I had to say was, I'm an older quarterback.
That's it.
And you had that. Nice. Well, with that, let's go on to your bargain running back.
Bargain running back. I'm going. This guy didn't have a great week, but he's my man crush, rookie man crush. Definitely the workhorse where he's at. I'm going Josh Jacobs, $6,000 at Indy. Didn't really get it going last week, but he did play against the Vikings.
Yep.
Didn't have a monster week. But you best believe that John Gruden is going to feed him the ball after getting their ass kicked against the Vikings, because establishing the run is John Gruden's priority. That's always going to be his priority. It's the 80s football. He wants to establish that run to work open the pass. And not to mention, they want to throw him the ball. They talked about today that they want to get him more targets in the passing game. There's really nobody like threatening him at all. Like, he is that workhorse back. He's first, second, third. I think he's gonna get the ball real early and real often right away to start this game.
Whoa, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm ready to go, bro.
You got caught up there, it sounded like.
I got caught up.
Yeah, I don't mind that play. Look at his touches. Week 1, 23 touches. He had nearly 24 points. Raiders win. Week 2 against the Chiefs, when the Chiefs had that breakout second quarter, they were down. It kind of took him out. He only had 12 touches, 10 fantasy points. And then this last week, like you said, against the Vikings, once again, they got down fairly early in this game. Kind of took him away. He only had the 10 touches. Only 4 or 5, I think, fantasy points it was. But yeah, now he gets the Colts. Colts are only 20th against the run. I actually thought they were a little bit better than that. So with that, yeah, I hate to always have to agree with you here, but for that price, $6,000 on FanDuel, I think, yeah, that is a bargain. That's a guy that if I was kind of stacked at some other positions, I might try to find him into the lineup because like you said, when the Raiders have won when they've looked their best this year, it's when he had the 20-plus touches. So
Yep.
if they want to get back to it, that's not a terrible route to go with Jacobs this week.
And honestly, if they get to the goal line, they're going to give him the ball. I don't even imagine they're going to do play action, but he's the only option on the goal line running the ball anyway, so he's going to get the rock down there. He's got the touchdown high side. He did break off a couple of runs to get him to around 40 in the second half of that game, which gave me some positive. It gave me some positive outlook. So
yeah.
And I love Josh Jacobs. I think he's going to have a monster year, so keep him rolling.
Yeah, with you on that. Are you ready for the running back version of Who Am I?
Fuck yeah.
Okay, this one's a little bit harder. I'm going to tell you that off the bat. Clue number 1. I've played in 2 games so far this season, and I scored 10 fantasy points in both games. I swear to God, if you get it off that clue, I am going to murder you.
He's going to kill me. I almost want to take a guess, but I don't think it's the guy I'm thinking of. So
You going to hold it then?
I'm going to hold it. I have no idea.
All right, clue number 2. My opponent this week ranks 9th against the pass, 8th against the run, and that's important since I do a large amount of my work through the passing game.
Oh, shit.
Oh, your guess is no longer relevant, is it?
No, it's not at all.
Okay, well, let's see if clue 3 gives it away for you. Hopefully you were paying attention to some active inactives last week and why they may have been inactive. Because clue number 3 is, my wife gave birth to a child last week, forcing me to miss a game against the Jets where I would have scored 1 million fantasy points.
Didn't even think about that. Wow, James White.
James White it is, and I'm glad you said that. And actually, I'm sort of glad that his wife decided to have the kid that week, because now you're getting him at Buffalo, and Buffalo's shown, like, they're undefeated. They've been holding teams little to nothing. But guess what? They have not played an offense like New England. And with James White kind of being on the back of everyone's mind now after missing last week, I don't think that many people are going to play him. And I don't think it matters how good your defense is against a certain thing, because James White is literally the guy that's going to get it done through the air. He has 7 rushing attempts through 2 games. That's not something you usually want to use in fantasy. However, he has the 8 catches, he has a receiving touchdown, and he always has that chance of going off. And we haven't seen Sony Michel really break out yet. And I don't know the injury status on Rex Burkhead. Maybe you know more about that than I do, but I know that he had to exit that last game as well.
No, I have no idea. But did you say something about? Did you say his wife chose to give birth on that day?
I may have said something like that. I don't know.
It's a little problematic.
Do you like it? What are your thoughts?
Who do they play?
They play at Buffalo.
God, that's tough because they have so many running backs that they're using in that, but they're probably, like you said again. Sony Michel he's not breaking tackles this year. That's one of his big stats. He's not breaking tackles at all, so that makes him a little less relevant against the Bills, who are playing defense really well.
Really well, yeah.
And the Burkhead/James White comes more into play, especially since they're kind of good on both, against the pass, against the run. So that makes James White, absolutely more of a threat, because that's kind of where their bread is buttered, is in that get it to a running back and let him make plays. And James White's the guy who does that the best out of all 3 of those guys.
Yeah, the other thing that I was going to say earlier about my stack of the week, I actually realized they didn't have a Who Am I trivia for this guy. So the other guy that I have in my lineup this week, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on him, but I'm actually stack of the weeking a quarterback and running back, and it's Phillip Rivers and Austin Eckler. Eckler is one of the more expensive running backs. He's $8,100. But here's the theory. Just like I said earlier, I don't need to say it too much. Just use all the players against the Dolphins, especially Austin Eckler, because they're getting it done on the ground. The Dallas Cowboys just had 2 running backs go over 100 yards. They could have had more. They literally just went into sleep mode in the fourth quarter. They could have had more yards if they wanted. And Miami's proven time and time again they can't cover running backs out of the backfield. And that's one of Eckler's biggest strengths. So I'm all about splurging on him this week. He's actually, I think, $900 cheaper than Christian McCaffrey. And I like Eckler more. I would rather use Eckler this week over Christian McCaffrey. And I didn't think I'd ever say that.
I'm going to say this. The Dolphins definitely showed more fight in this last game than they have. Again, I think I saw a little more energy out of them.
Yeah.
And maybe they just want to play for Josh Rosen more than they want to play for Fitzpatrick. But Rosen, he's got. I mean, I think he's going to be able to ball up a little bit. I think he can play. Like I honestly believe. I thought this from the beginning. He's only in year fucking 2 behind like the worst team with one of the worst offensive lines in the entire league.
Historically bad.
He's up there doing things. He's all, compared to Ryan Fitzpatrick, he looks like Tom Brady.
Oh, he definitely provided the spark in that mop-up duty against New England. He should have had like 2 touchdown passes that were dropped. He should have had another touchdown pass against the Cowboys. It was a great defensive play, but Preston Williams should have caught it. And then they were also down at like the 5-yard line when Kenyon Drake fumbled, so they should have had another touchdown there.
And Devontae Parker dropped a wide open pass over the middle at like the 10-yard line where he could have scored.
The only thing that changes is nothing changes when it comes to the Dolphins.
But at least like Josh Rosen did he throw any interceptions in that game?
Not in that game, no.
There you go. He's at least like gives you some like hope. Maybe not hope, but like
something to watch.
Yeah, I think this guy's actually going to be good. He's not going to probably end up. He might end up having a decent year.
Yeah.
Kind of terrible line, and somebody's going to get somebody who can play now. I think that he's not going to be a Dolphin after this year.
They've improved every single week. They went from losing by like 49 to 43 to only like 26 or 7, whatever it was. So improvement every single week.
I want to think Josh Rosen out about a decent like team surrounded around him.
I'm sorry, I can't provide you that this year. Maybe Miami can trade him next year. We can see what happens.
I want him as Aaron Rodgers' backup.
There you go. He'll probably take over the starting job. Before we get to before we take over the wide receiver position, talk about Pristine Auction real quick because we're actually going to be announcing the winner of our Amari Cooper signed mini helmet giveaway. The Cowboys play the Sunday night game. We're going to be announcing the winner then. So make sure you get entered to win probably before like Saturday because we're going to be doing a lot of drinking on Saturday and I don't trust us to finalize everything on Sunday. So get it in prior to Saturday. Find the tweet that we're describing here. It's always towards the top of our feed at Loaded Box. It shows you all the ways to get entered to win. Make sure you check that out. Check out pristineauction.com as well. Enter registration code LOADED and we will get you an extra $5 put towards your account. But make sure you get entered to try to win the Amari Cooper signed mini helmet. And with that, DJ, it's receiver time. Let's talk about your bargain play at wide receiver.
All right, so I'm going a little bit out of what I thought was right earlier. I'm going Terry, or what I thought was wrong earlier. You know what? If this is wrong, I don't want to be right. I don't even know what I'm saying. Terry McLaurin, I'm going 6,300 at the New York Jets. I'm starting to believe in him a little bit. I wasn't jumping on it. He's in a bad offense. He's a rookie. I don't usually get behind any of that trash right there. But he went for 70 yards and a touchdown versus the Bears.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams didn't even exist. Well, okay, I shouldn't compare him to Devontae Adams because they were literally covering him with Devontae Adams with 3 guys.
Right.
But still, that's a good Bears defense. Now, he literally gets to face the worst secondary in all of football in the Giants. They are terrible. They are dead last against the pass this year. I hope Dwayne Haskins gets to start. I don't think that he will. I hope he does because I think he's got an even higher ceiling. But Case Keenum has been targeting him a ton, so if Case Keenum's in there, maybe I actually do feel more comfortable with him because he's going after him. But Case Keenum's ball security, maybe the worst ball security I've ever seen him. I legitimately I bet the Bears last night. I'm glad I did.
Same
I've never laughed so hard.
I know exactly where you're going.
One time when he put his hand up and just held the football and kind of clutched it, and then the ball just got swatted out of his hands. It was just like what are you doing with that football? What are you trying to do? And then he comes and he backs it up by, I don't know if he thought the 50-yard line or wherever they were was the goal line, but he tried to jump over it, got the ball swatted and landed back where he originally was. The play isn't over once you cross the first down line. That's not how it works. It was I don't know what went through his brain that night, but he should literally be kicked out of football for what he did.
The first play that you described, when I was watching that live, the first thing that came to my mind was this is footage from like 1940s or 50s football when players needed a second job because their salary in the NFL wasn't enough and they didn't have technique. They just stood there with the ball by their ear, like ready to throw it. And here comes one of the best pass rushers the NFL has ever seen. And just freaking volleyball spikes it out of his hand. I literally was almost like sleeping. I was so exhausted. It didn't matter. I woke up and just laughed. I almost fell off the couch. I was laughing my ass off.
It was great. Like, I hate the Bears, but like, I never expected the Redskins to beat them or really compete that much, and that's why I bet the Bears. So I wasn't angry. I wasn't going to be upset about it.
Oh no!
At that point, I'm just laughing because I'm like he's trying to go up for a layup with Dikembe Mutombo or LeBron James having a beat on him. I'm like, what are you doing? He held it there for like 2 seconds. Tim Tebow didn't even take that long to get the ball out of his hands.
It was brutal. Since you brought up Scary Terry, before I do my wide receiver, I'm going to bounce to one of our fantasy football listener questions because McLaurin was involved in one of them. So this guy is a standard league looking to fill his flex spot. By the way, if you want to get your listener start sit question in, hit us up on Twitter at LoadedBox. But this one is Scary Terry, McLaurin versus the Giants. You got Julian Edelman versus the Bills. David Montgomery versus the Vikings, or freaking Devin Singletary versus the Patriots.
Well, I don't like either one of the running back choices.
I'm with you.
Because they're going up against 2 great running backs. I'm favoring McLaurin. He's going against the worst secondary. I'm literally using him in this TFS, so I got to put my money where my mouth is. 6,300 against, with the way this guy has started out, which has been on fire.
Right.
Probably with the case he's locked in on him. The Giants are the worst. Like, their secondary is awful. And hopefully, for their sakes, if you're using McLaurin, that Daniel Jones is actually able to score like he did last week. So you've got more of that back and forth.
Shootout
and there's
style.
not just a shootout in the shittiest shootout of all time.
of all time. Yeah, and then add to the fact that Edelman had to leave that game against the Jets, so we don't know exactly what his status is at this point.
Yeah.
Vikings have a good defense. I'm a little nervous to use a running back there. And Singletary didn't get to play last week either. So you have a couple of injured guys there. So I think the safe play and potentially your highest ceiling guy is McLaurin. So it's a clean sweep. We're both going Scary Terry on that one. So I think I'm on to my wide receiver here. All right, are you ready for this little wide receiver version? Who am I? Back to our roots here.
Let's do it.
All right, clue number 1. I have 31 targets, 23 receptions, 268 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the first 3 weeks. Hopefully you're not Rain Man and you know every stat in the NFL.
No, I mean, you ran through it so fast, I don't even think I was listening.
Well, let's go on to clue 2. All right, Ben, that's me. I started the offseason high on this guy, but then I tempered my expectations once I realized how late in the season this guy tore his ACL last year. Silence.
Oh, that really threw me for a riff.
Ooh.
My brain just got twisted into a pretzel. I think my brain just went away.
You ready for clue 3?
I'm upset that I don't have it off the ACL tear. Why can I not think of it?
I really thought you'd have it because I was super high on this guy, and then the more I thought about it, I'm like, I should lean back a little bit. I should temper back.
Who was it?
Well, I'll give you clue 3. My opponent this week ranks 21st against the pass and just let Daniel Jones throw for 336 yards and 2 touchdowns in his NFL debut.
Oh, I'm just blanking on everything right now.
Oh, no.
Okay, they beat Tampa Bay.
I could really help you out here and let you know who Tampa Bay plays this week.
I had to think about who Tampa Bay plays this week because I was actually looking at potential tight ends against Tampa Bay. Is it Mike Williams? No.
Mike Williams plays for Tampa. That's a good guess.
No, not for Tampa Bay.
Clue 4. Tampa Bay plays the Rams this week.
Cooper Kupp.
There it is.
God, I was there the whole time, but I couldn't get it.
Cooper Kupp is my guy this week. I've said it all offseason. I was so high on him, and then literally I just came crashing back down when I'm like, gosh, he got hurt so late in the season. I don't want to pick a guy that early that's going to end up having injury issues and not coming back 100%. Well, I think just based on his targets alone, one, we already know that Kupp and Goff just have super great chemistry for being this young in the league. Week 1, 10 targets. Week 2, 9 targets. Week 3, 12 targets. If the Buccaneers are going to get out and score in this game, which I don't know if they will because the Rams have actually played really good defensively, but if they do, if they can get that momentum going on offense, Cooper Kupp is like the main constant guy. I think Brandon Cooks has like your highest ceiling. I think Cooper Kupp provides a fairly decent ceiling, but a really safe floor. And for $7,000, that's borderline bargain. And for that price, you don't always need the boom play. You need the guy that's going to get you the 10 to 15 points. And this year alone, he's averaging 17 points per game. If he can get 15 to 20, definitely warrants $7,000. I'm definitely making room for him in my lineup.
Can someone please tell me why can somebody tell Brandon Cooks to score some touchdowns? Because my touchdown league is going terribly. It's not good. I'm going to end up in dead last place. Somehow I haven't gotten the low, but I need Brandon Cooks to start scoring some touchdowns. Let me tell you guys, I have a sob story about my touchdown league. I was hungover as shit, and I made picks like it. It just wasn't good. I made lots of bad choices. I took Cam Newton in the second round. Now let me explain. Quarterbacks are a premium. If you get a quarterback who can run touchdowns, Cam Newton was the top pick multiple years in a row.
Yep.
And it's just because it's like double points. It doesn't matter. I just need somebody to start scoring points, or I'm going to be the poorest person in America because I'm going to get the lowest score every week in that and have to pay.
Because in that league, lowest score has to pay, and DJ's sick of paying. So please get touchdowns, Brandon Cooks.
Start scoring, and you know who else needs to score touchdowns? Start scoring touchdowns.
You got so excited there. Who?
Zeke Elliott. Score some fucking touchdowns. That's all you do. Bernard Dickhead needs to stop taking his. When I saw a touchdown and it wasn't Dak because if I have him on one fantasy football team, I was like, Zeke scored. And then I went to the ESPN app and I was like, oh, that wasn't Zeke. And then I texted you and it was your fault because you're a Dolphins fan and you need to let Zeke score.
Tried multiple times, but it didn't work. Tony Pollard is your guy. I'm sorry. Man, Zeke's really been low on the touchdowns this year.
I'm really angry. He's only got one.
You're feeling it more than anyone. The other two wide receivers that I am likely putting in some lineups this week, and I want you to tell me of these two who you like the most this week. I got an expensive guy. I've got Odell Beckham, 7,900 against the Ravens, or I've got Calvin Ridley. Baller on a budget here, $5,800 at home against the Titans. Which one of those two would you be more likely to feel comfortable with?
Oh, this is so fun. I'm always going to go Odell. I actually think the Browns are going to pull off an upset this week. I'm actually on their side. I don't think Baltimore is good. I saw what I thought I'd see out of Lamar Jackson. He was trash in the first half, mostly trash throughout the whole entire game, was able to run a little bit and got you some fantasy points, but he stunk. The week before, he missed passes, whatever. But let's go over to Calvin Ridley and talk about another quarterback that I hate worse than any quarterback in the entire fucking league. Matt Ryan needs to retire. He cannot not get in the red zone and be like, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, let's just throw interceptions in the least opportune time. Let's just throw interceptions when we need to score a touchdown. We're inside the 10-yard line. Like, I don't understand. Mr. Trubisky did it last night. I don't know how you continue to do that. Like, what are you doing? How can you be a fan? Are you done with Matt Ryan yet?
No, I can't be. I'm too invested in Julio and Calvin to write them off.
Have I not convinced you on Matt Ryan? Like, Julio's going to get he's scoring touchdowns this year. That's
left
awesome.
and right, man.
But I can't choose Calvin Ridley because his fucking quarterback is Matt Ryan, and he's already proved to me through each of his 3-week games so far. He did win week 2, but the Vikings and this last game, he just throws interceptions in the red zone. Like, that's what he loves to do. He loves it. He's like, fuck it. Anybody going for it?
I sense a lot of built-up anger. Have you just been waiting for Sunday to just explode on these people that you just hate right now?
I've been waiting for a podcast. All I was thinking about on Sunday is, like, I can't wait to talk about Matt Ryan because he needs to retire. Like, I don't care how much he has left of the tank. Retire, Matt Ryan. Just retire. Call it a day. You're done. You just can't do it. You're done. Your Super Bowl run where you lost 28-3, that was the end of you. You're done. Retire. Nobody likes you anymore. the whole team hates you. It's over.
Matt Ryan, I still like you. Yeah, obviously I'm playing both of those guys, so I'm high on both of them. I don't need to try to defend it right now. The one thing I'll say Calvin Ridley has going for him, last week he caught 100% of his targets. It might have only been one, but you can't argue with 100%.
You know what? Matt Ryan should retire.
I don't know what's behind it, but it could get ugly. What is your bargain tight end look like this week?
Not Austin Hooper.
Austin Hooper was like the only other guy outside of Julio that was fantasy irrelevant. 2 touchdowns.
It's because I don't trust Matt Ryan. Don't care. Don't like him. Can't live with. Okay, so I've got a good one for you.
So guys. It's not Hooper. Who do you got?
I'm now going to go into straight streaming mode of tight ends. I've sat with my drafted tight ends for 3 weeks. Way too long. Already too long. I kept Jimmy Graham out there thinking, let's see if he can get a touchdown after that touchdown game. I kept TJ Hawkinson think he'd do something, which I'm really glad he didn't, because I was arguing with other writers and members of the Loaded Box podcast who were like, we have a bet that I'll eat shit if TJ Hawkinson ends up as a top 10 tight end. And in the first week, everybody is cocky. In the last 2 weeks, I think he has 1 catch.
It was such a risky bet, though, regardless.
He had 1 catch for 1 yard last week, all right? 1 catch for 1 yard. I saw it because he was on my fantasy team, and I sat there and looked at it, and I laughed. And I've never been so happy for my tight end to score 0 points, because I was right. Because Matt Stafford is going to Matt Stafford, and he's going to forget that he has a fucking tight end. That's what he does. Going on to my pick, I'm taking Will Dissly, $5,400 at Arizona. Arizona is the worst against the tight end in the entire league. They have given up 4 touchdowns in 3 games to tight ends. I thought I saw something like 30 points a game, but that must have been wrong, because that couldn't have been right.
Well, Mark Andrews went ham, and then Hawkinson went ham week 1.
So it must have been, because it was like 60.2 points in the first 2 games, which is like 30.1 in those first 2 games they'd given up.
Yeah.
They stink.
So that's your guy, Will Dissly. Did you have anything else on him?
Seahawks are sending former third-round tight end Nick Vanette to the Steelers for Adam Schefter.
For Adam Schefter? It's a hell of a deal.
For Adam Schefter, he now plays for the Seattle Seahawks.
The beautiful thing, that breaking news that you just put on here, like that late breaking news, all that does is open up more targets for Will Dissly. What a pick! What
a fucking pick.
Are you ready to try to guess a tight end? This is gonna be the hardest thing for you, because you hate tight ends. So how the hell are you gonna guess one?
Wait, do you know how good my brain is working tonight? It's working so good that I just picked Will Dissly, and at the same time, the Seahawks are like, "Fuck it, let's trade our other tight end."
I can't argue that. I mean, that's pretty freaking coincidental. But hey, if you want to take credit for it, like do some magic juju stuff, whatever.
I don't even know how efficiently my brain is working. That's all. This is like Limitless shit.
I was gonna say, what's that? That's that show, Limitless. You are literally on that pill.
How long does Adderall last? Because I need to start getting on that, because I want this feeling all the time.
Why did you take some today?
No, I just want to take some every morning.
Oh, well, if you take it on top of what you had now, your brain might blow up.
Well, whatever. I'd be at peak performance. Let's go. I'd be making reps all day.
All right. Well, clue number 1. After a 1-catch, 12-yard performance week 1, I've posted back-to-back weeks catching 5 or more passes, 50 or more yards, and at least 1 touchdown in both weeks.
Fuck tight ends.
Number 2. My opponent this week ranks 24th against the pass. Additionally, my opponent is a divisional opponent.
Hasn't helped me.
Clue number 3. I am one of the top waiver wire ads leading up to week 4, as I was likely not selected in any of your redraft leagues.
God, I hate tight ends so much.
DJ, who was your tight end?
I was just going to say, is it Will Dissly? I was literally about to ask you that question. Is it my tight end?
It definitely is Will Dissly. That's why I almost gave it up after the first one. I'm like, no, I'm running through all these clues. I'm going to see if you're really all in on Will Dissly or not.
I was literally, if you would have waited 1 second to say who was the tight end, I was about to say, is it Will Dissly?
Yeah. Like you said, though, man, Arizona is, like, so far this season, just horrendous against tight ends. And as my first clue said, 1 catch on 2 targets week 1. Since then, 5 targets, 7 targets, 50 yards, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns 2 weeks ago, and a touchdown last week. You really think that Seattle's not going to try to get things going? One, probably on the ground. I think they're going to get a little bit of a ground game going. But after losing at home to a Saints team without Drew Brees, they're going to try to pound the rock and they're going to try to be as efficient as possible. And guess who's been the most efficient target? It's literally been Will Dissly. 20 fantasy points 2 weeks ago, 15 this last week. You're going against the worst defense with tight ends. I am all in on Will Dissly. Throw in a waiver claim for him. Put some of that free agent money on him. Get this dude on your roster. Or if you're like DJ, stream him this week. Try to get him in your lineup.
Guess who's starting to turn it on for this? Not starting. He had one catch for a touchdown in week 1. But guess who's turning into Doug Baldwin for the Seattle Seahawks?
Yeah, there you go.
It's doing it. He's turning into him. Russell's running around and he's somehow finding open area and he's Doug Baldwin at this point. He's going to be a very efficient wide receiver who probably finishes in the top 15 of wide receivers because that's what his number 1 does.
Right. I'm going to tell you the one other guy that makes my FanDuel lineup this week because I've given you everything besides the defense, which, by the way, if you're going with my exact lineup, it's the Vikings defense. But I typically never do this. I do this maybe once a year. But in my flex position, the only one I haven't talked about is actually another tight end, just because I'm not super high on some of the more expensive running backs and wide receivers this week. What are your thoughts on if you're going to go 2 tight ends? Would you be cool with Dissly? That's a dumb question to you, isn't it? But take this. Will Dissly, and then you go Travis Kelce as well against the Lions. Indoor game, air raid offense. All these wide receivers have been posting the numbers. Kelce has 1 touchdown this year. It's a matter of minutes until it's his day where he goes for $150 and 2 touchdowns. I love the idea of Dissly and Kelce this week.
I will never risk 2 tight ends in a lineup in the history of my life.
I shouldn't even have asked. My bad. I'll end it right there.
We'll fucking kill you right there. You sit.
I have another listener question for you.
I'm going to be your baby's daddy pretty soon here.
Yeah, it's coming up pretty soon. Oh, speaking of which, right after this one, I've got a little pregnant wife advice for you. I'm bringing it back this week.
I thought it was over with. I was so sick of hearing it.
Never over. You're going to like this one. Second listener question here. Standard League, who is your wide receiver 2 behind Julio Jones? You've got your boy Brandon Cooks versus the Bucks, Kenny Golladay versus the Chiefs, or Chris Godwin versus the Rams.
Brandon Cooks, he's scoring a touchdown this week. He can't go 4 weeks without a touchdown.
And I don't mind any of these guys. Typically, the one that I would stray away from would be Godwin versus the Rams because the Rams have been pretty good on defense this year. But I like KC and the Lions getting into a bit of a shootout here. It's the only way that the Lions have a chance. I think Golladay can have a nice bounce back. What, he catch 2 passes in that game against the Eagles? I don't think he's going to get shut down again. I think he's going to have a nice one. Yeah, Cooks versus Tampa Bay, though, the Rams offense still hasn't quite clicked yet. At some point, Cooks is going to be the one that gets it. I'm just a little higher on Cooper Kupp. So, yeah, I understand your Cooks pick. I'm actually going to give the nod to Kenny Golladay against the Chiefs. I like that move. Unless for some reason Jalen Ramsey gets traded to the Chiefs midweek here, I'm going to say go Golladay.
Can I do a little PSA real quick? I got to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
Oh, Jesus. The floor is yours.
Everybody's freaking out about Rodgers has 4 touchdown passes, blah, 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 this, that. Doesn't have it. The defense is carrying the team. This is a quarterback in a brand new offense and he's actually not the one I'm worried about, with a bunch of young wide receivers who have no idea what they're doing. Every time they try to run an RPO, he turns over and those guys are running straight down the field and he's had to throw it into the ground at their feet because they don't realize what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
They've played against the Minnesota Vikings, the Chicago Bears, and the Denver Broncos. All 3 of those, 2 of those are top 10. Broncos are still top 15 at worst. At worst. The Broncos are still a great freaking defense. They have dudes. I am telling you right now, Thursday night against the Eagles, Aaron Rodgers will light it up. Devontae scores 2 touchdowns. Rodgers goes for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's going to go ham. Jimmy Graham won't be involved. He stinks. Drop him from all your teams.
Trying to.
Can't catch. His feet hurt all the time. Done. Get rid of Jimmy Graham. I'm done with him. He's canceled. I'd rather have Mercedes Lewis. At least he can block somebody out there. play all your Packers. Play him. Obviously, Aaron Jones isn't mad. Even when he's not getting handed the ball, he's still scoring touchdowns.
Here's my question for you. In 20 seconds or less, why is Jamal Williams getting more snaps than Aaron Jones? What's going on there?
I actually wanted to address this too, because this is my biggest worry. I want to be pro Matt LaFleur, but I'm a little bit worried. What did we see in Tennessee that I kept saying last year? I didn't understand. From week 3 to like 14, they kept trying to get the ball to both Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis like equally.
Time.
Fuck. I want to talk about it though. It hurts.
You get 10 more seconds.
No, they gave it to him. They gave Derrick Henry, Dion Lewis equally, and they're trying to do that with the two, with Williams and Aaron Jones, when Jones is much more efficient. I am hoping they did this for Thursday night so that Aaron Jones isn't taking more of a beating in just a 4-day span.
It seems strange, and it is funny that you did bring that up. You're like, I hope he learned, because Derrick Henry soared at the end of last season when they actually featured him. And now, they're going back to that whole, like, let's split Dion Lewis and Derrick Henry and see what happens. They're doing that so much. And Aaron Jones still had the 2 touchdowns last week and was super.
Jamal Williams had more carries than Aaron Jones and more snaps. It makes zero sense. Jamal Williams is half the running back that Aaron Jones is. I didn't understand it. I'm hoping because they played Thursday night and they didn't want him taking a beating after getting a bunch of carries the week before that, and then they have 4 days in between 2 games. I'm hoping for that.
Could be.
They give him a bunch of carries because they'll have 10 days of rest on Thursday night.
Right.
And he'll just continue to be the lead back. But if it goes that route, I'm going to start getting really upset with LaFleur.
Yeah, no doubt. So starting Aaron Jones in your redraft leagues, you're not letting that snap?
No. It's crazy because he's smaller, but and obviously LaFleur knows this, but he's the better goal line back. He just picks and finds holes, and he's just right. That touchdown he scored, the first one, he ducked under guys, and then you couldn't see him, and then he just shot into the end zone.
Right. Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue with you. It's funny that the snap distribution is the way it is. But maybe that's a thing, like quick turnaround. Then you have a lot of rest. Maybe you can use Aaron Jones more as a workhorse running back against the Eagles on Thursday. I like that as a strategy. We'll have to see if it plays out that way, but it would make sense.
I'm just putting out hope that that's it. That's just my positive energy going out. If it's not, I'm gonna throw a chair off my deck.
That was a beautiful 20 seconds. I'm gonna wrap things up here real quick with the pregnant wife advice. You're really gonna have to pay attention to this one because I'm stretching here. All right, I'm stretching here. This is pregnant wife advice for the 17, 18-year-old listener that hasn't gone to college yet, that doesn't even have a girlfriend, but will someday have a pregnant wife. Are you ready?
Nope.
This weekend, when I was in Gainesville watching the Florida versus Tennessee football game, it came to my mind that it didn't take me long to figure out that we made a mistake by not going to college anywhere in the state of Florida, because the ladies, the college girls, they wear nothing. They are beautiful. And here's the strategy. Here's the strategy, young kids, if you're listening to this. Go to college somewhere in Florida, but don't shoot for the 10s. Here's the strategy. Shoot for the 7s. Shoot for the 7s there, and then when you get them, you marry them, you take them back home, they are going to be 10s in your community. They are going to be 10s. Everyone's going to be so jealous, and you're going to be walking around with your state's finest. That's my pregnant wife advice in a very, very, very roundabout way.
Couple of things. I feel like you just called your wife like a 3 in Florida. Number one.
That's a cold. That's cold.
There's a long story behind this, but I'm pretty sure you would have made it 2 hours into a drive to going to school to Florida and turning around and coming back because you were too much of a bitch. So that was a problem as well.
Like I said, I was a late bloomer, and now I'm a late realizer. This is bullshit.
Just say it. You had your chance. You bailed.
I did. I bailed. We'll have to tell that story sometime on a future podcast. Spoiler alert. All right, let's wrap this puppy up. Check us out on Twitter at LoadedBox. Check out the website. We have all of our weekly articles, our podcast, our start sits, Everything that you need is on loadedboxpodcast.com. Our next episode, we'll be doing our NFL Week 4 game by game and against the spread picks. Available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. DJ, send us away.
Bye.
Nice.